Welcome to the 6th ToKini Andy Kanji lesson. Today we're going to cover the meaning, building blocks, writing, historical evolution where applicable, and a story to memorize each of the following kanji. We'll also learn the parts and radicals needed for those kanji. Today, there's 3 new parts we're going to learn. And stick around to the end of the lesson where we'll be doing a quick quiz to help everything stick. So let's get into it. Our first kanji for today means king. The official radical for king is itself, king. This means it will be showing up in other kanji quite a bit. In fact, the next 2 kanji contain king as a part. I've broken down king into 3 parts though, due to its slightly odd stroke order. 1, staff, and 2. There are 4 strokes in king. While in China, they write it how I would personally expect, with the top 2 lines first, the staff cutting through them, and the bottom line last. In Japan, we write it this way. Top stroke, or 1 first, followed by the staff. We then write the kanji 2 through the staff. This, of course, is because kings don't have to follow the rules. If you like that dad joke, don't forget to like the video. It really helps. Historically, this kanji was meant to be a pictograph of a broadaxe, which represented a king's authority. Some of those historical broadaxes were pretty badass. Our story for king is, the king carries a staff endowed with 3 fluorescent worms, shining brightly. I've combined the 1 and 2 kanji into 3 for the sake of simplicity. If you've properly imagined the original story for 3, with a 1 and 2 combined, you should be fine here. Remember that it's a good idea to pause the video after each story and really try to imagine it, or to create a story of your own that will help you remember the kanji even better. Make sure the story contains the meaning and every single part in some way. All we've done is add a drop to the king kanji, and now we have jewel, not the artist, the Stones. Not that band either, sorry. Well, you get what I mean. I want to mention that this also frequently means ball, but I chose jewel as the meaning for this series. The official radical for jewel is not king, which annoys me more than it should. We can easily break it down into kanji and drop though. Jewel has 5 strokes, which are written in exactly the same way as king. Why isn't king the official radical? The drop is written last. While drops on top of a kanji or on the outside of it are usually written first, when the drops are within the kanji or an enclosure, they're usually written last for that part. Historically, jewel hasn't changed much over the years. So for our story, we have the king has drip. Look at all those jewels on his shoes as he kicks a ball. Here I've combined the 2 common meanings of this kanji, despite choosing only jewel as the meaning we'll be using in future kanji that this shows up in. Now, when we throw that jewel into a box or enclosure, we get country? Quite philosophical if you think about it. As soon as you start putting things of value into boxes and trying to protect them, you have to make a country to protect the jewel in the box protecting citizens. Get subscribed for more deep political philosophy content. The official radical for country is mouth or an enclosure box, which means the boxes and the cordoning off of value is what makes the country, not the jewels. All right, I'll stop. The parts here are obviously mouth and jewel. Country has 8 strokes, making it the most stroke-heavy kanji we've learned to date. Of course, if you've learned mouth and jewel well, this won't be a problem. As always, we do not close boxes or enclosures until we finish drawing what's inside of them. So we draw the 2 strokes of mouth first, followed by the jewel inside. We then close the box, creating our first country. Historically, it seems that this kanji had completely different parts drawn inside the box. sometimes even citizens. Some of these characters are still in use and considered alternate versions of this most common country kanji. Our story for country is: the king and his jewels are entrapped or enclosed by the people of his country. He must make sure they're fed. A good king is what I probably should have said. Bringing us to our first non-kanji part, human roof. The reason for this name is that technically this is the kanji person and how it appears when it's drawn as a kanmuri or crown radical. Officially, it is known as person's roof when it's in this position, so it's worth learning separately. It is a radical, so it doesn't have a radical, although person could be considered its part. The two strokes in this character are the same strokes as in person, although it's sort of doing a split. Remember that the person we used for our person story will always be used when person is a part of a kanji. This part is no exception. So, Ando-san becomes a human roof by doing a split on top of roofless buildings. Our next part, which we'll be seeing quite a bit in other kanji, is 8 horse leg crown. This is not an official radical, but a very common part. It's often explained that it's the same as a part we'll learn later, this one. But being the same as a later kanji or part is not helpful for us. For the purposes of differentiating them in this course, we'll be referring to this as what its pictograph looks like to me. A horse lying upside down on the ground with its legs in the air. Since we've covered horses in this course as 8 horses, and the stroke order is the same as 8 horses, we go with an 8 horse leg crown, as it usually appears above other kanji. Though from time to time, these 2 dots without the bottom stroke are used within kanji and considered the same part, which is annoying, but that's kanji. Officially, this isn't a kanji, so we won't be covering an official radical, although it's this super old character, if you're interested. We will consider itself as its only part. The strokes are exactly as you'd expect. Write each dot starting with the one on the left, and the horizontal line below it last. The story we'll use for this part is 8 horses lying on their backs, legs in the air. Bringing us to our first actual kanji that uses the last 2 parts. Gold. This also often refers to money or metal in general, but the meaning we'll use is gold. The official radical will make you happy. It's just gold. But we'll break this down into human roof, 1, dirt, and 8 horse leg crown, inside a kanji this time. Writing is in exactly the order of those parts, and it has 8 strokes tying it with country for kanji with the most strokes that we've learned so far. We write the roof, then the 1, then the 10 part of dirt, the 2 dots of 8 horse leg crown, and finally the last line in dirt, or in 8 horse leg crown, whichever you prefer. Historically, this kanji hasn't changed much, and certainly nothing that will help us remember it more than this image. Beneath an Ando-san inspired roof, 1 fluorescent worm illuminates the dirt below it, a gravestone marking the spot where 2 gold horse legs stick out of the dirt. The poor 8 horses rest here, hopefully in peace. Though with those golden legs, I imagine the grave robbers will be here soon. Bringing us to our last part. Person hiding on left. This is another part that is the same as person, but depending on where person is used as a radical, its name changes. In this case, it's person on left, as it's a hen radical, or on the left radical. This part often hints that the kanji it's a part of has something to do with things that people do, as parts in the hen position often impart some form of meaning onto a kanji. Being a radical, this doesn't have a radical, although it is person, and it's its only part. The strokes for this part are exactly the same as those in person, with the left stroke first and the right second. But because it appears on the left, it's written a bit differently. The first stroke is written above, and the second stroke is written as a straight line coming out of the middle of the first. Our story for this part is when Ando-san is hiding next to something, we imagine him peeking out from behind it on the left, as in to the left of the part that person hiding on left is drawn with. Kind of like this next kanji, which means rest, as in to take a rest. The official radical for rest is person hiding on the left, which gives us a hint that this kanji will have something to do with things people do. Its parts are person hiding on the left and tree. What do people do next to trees? Well, lots of things, but taking a rest is one of my favorites. Rest has 6 strokes. We first write person hiding on the left, then the tree to the right. Historically, this kanji hasn't changed much, usually involving the relevant person kanji at the time with the relevant tree kanji at the time. Our story for rest is Ando-san's favorite place to take a rest is behind a nice big tree. We see him peeking out from behind it with a beer in hand, on the left of course. At least Ando-san and I agree on one thing, a good resting place. Which brings us to the Lesson 6 quiz. In this section of the video, I'll show you a flashcard with the English meaning for a kanji. Pause the video when we show each card and try to remember how to write that kanji. Next, text it on your hand with your finger or on a piece of paper. Then press play and see if you were right. The best way to remember kanji you just learned is to search your memory for the story we taught you or the one you made based on the English word on the flashcard. Our first card is King. Next is Jewel. Just a few more. Here's Country. And then there's Gold. Finally, we have Rest. Let us know how many you got right down in the comments. You can learn the next 5 kanji by clicking here, if the video is already out. If you don't want to wait, you can continue learning with our Level 1 Kanji Flashcard deck for Anki on ToKiniAndy.com. We're also releasing kanji series videos early for all the members there, so check it out if you want a head start.